everyone, I'm Dean Ramsay, I'm Principal Analyst at TM Forum. I'm here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. I'm joined by Kelly Switt, who is the Senior Director, Global Head of Edge Sales and Strategy. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, good morning.
You having a good show so far?
We're having a fantastic show.
Great. It's very busy this year, a lot busier than last year, I think. So I think, there are a few themes around the show this year. They're lining up in places with lots of the research that my group have been doing. I know that we were talking about the digital transformation tracker, which is one of our big pieces of research during the year. It kind of highlighted the importance of connectivity for operators. So from a Red Hat point of view, connectivity, how important is that to the growth of edge compute in the industry?
So connectivity is very much kind of a core foundational element that's needed for edge. So whether I work with the enterprise customers in any one of the different industries, the biggest piece of any discussion around how they're bringing new compute or even AI down to their shop floor or into their retail establishment, the start of every conversation is about the network and potentially the network transformation they need to have. So I see a huge opportunity for the telecommunications industry to start really thinking about how to move a little bit beyond their connectivity and much closer to the customer and helping to solve some of those problems.
Mm-hmm. I think it pops up time and again, the edge element of new service models for operators too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different concepts around edge, and when I talk to enterprise customers, there's a large percentage of their edge business that is going to be much more around kind of being on-premise, as a lot of people like to talk about. And so I think that when we think about that role of the service provider, they need to kind of think beyond just a metro edge facility and kind of sweating their own internal asset and start looking at how they can provide more MEC-based services that are privatized that they can actually bring into the on-premise. Along with that would then allow them to bring private 5G. And if you go with someone like Red Hat, we have a horizontal platform that would allow you to then be able to run some of the additional applications that enterprise may be trying to run within their on-premise establishment to then start to see that growth and maturity of the relationship with the customer.
Great, yeah. And are you seeing lots of opportunities for service providers in that model? Is it kind of part of the strategy of growth and new service models, do you think?
Yes, I think that the service providers, the ones that decide to kind of move beyond connectivity and start providing platform as a service and network as a service, I think there is an expanded role in revenue growth potential for them, but they really need to kind of move beyond just selling kind of core infrastructure and storage in the network. They really need to move beyond that. And some of the industries that we're really seeing probably the biggest drive right now, retail is popping right now. Everyone loves talking about Industry 4.0, and I think there is a lot of early proofs of concept taking place. But I think that's going to take a few more years to really mature, and it's going to require a very different ecosystem. So it's worth the investment, but it's a little less of the low-hanging fruit than you're going to see in retail and probably transportation and logistics.
And from my point of view, what I'm seeing is Industry 4.0 being a big focus, but a difficult thing to do. Yes. And so there does seem to be some other opportunities around retail that are probably easier from a telco point of view with their existing assets to be able to make some simple changes in structure and organization and in partnership models around the edge.
100%. And, any one of those industries that we're really talking about, most of the use cases that are really about the early adoption are all coming from computer vision, right? So I think what's really interesting is that even if you can't necessarily win that use case in the Industry 4.0 with the manufacturer, if you start that journey of understanding how to kind of like drive the relevance with the computer vision, with your connectivity, into even an industry like retail, you're learning the capabilities around how to run a platform or new services for any one of the enterprises in a use case that becomes very consistent, right? What's different about computer vision between retail and a manufacturer is really the outcome. The outcome they're trying to drive and what you're trying to monitor. So, which is much more about what the partner's doing than necessarily what the telco does. So I think that that's part of where I think there's probably a greater opportunity for the telcos to kind of think about how to really start that AI strategy for themselves.
So I think that one of the big points of discussion around the edge is securing the edge.
Yeah.
So I know that you're heavily involved in this. What are you seeing around making sure that telcos can provide a robust security option around edge compute?
Yeah, so when you think about, and we actually have done some research, and that's coming out. Hopefully in the next month or two, it will be published. We did some decent research across the enterprise and telco around what security really means for the edge. And when you think about that security posture, what most of the enterprises are really talking about is the IoT landscape. So we've been talking about IoT for a number of years, but when you think about the proliferation of all those endpoints, it's literally endpoints to the network. And the challenges that they've had in the past and most of the cyber threats that they've experienced are starting at those endpoints because they haven't had the right security posture. So what's fantastic about Red Hat is that we are known in the IT world for the security that we bring at the actual OS layer with our Linux distribution. And that Linux distribution is now being extended all the way out to the far edge for the IoT devices. And so when we think about how to kind of complement our portfolio from Red Hat with the service providers and the connectivity that they're providing, I think there's a huge opportunity around how we can provide better security at the endpoint connected with the network, and then even the day two management with some of the tooling we have in our management portfolio from Red Hat.
I think that's it's a huge issue for many operators that have been trying for a decade or so to try and drive revenue out of IoT, and that this huge attack plane that they have in a proliferation of devices that they don't know what the endpoint is. They're used to smartphones and like 30 different types of smartphones and tablets, and so as soon as you multiply that by a factor of 100, it's a really difficult thing. And it feels like they still haven't got their arms around that challenge.
Yeah, well, and that's a lot of why we did the innovation to really form factor our operating system down to fit on a device is exactly for that reason. And then we have our management tool around Ansible, which provides automation in the management of things. That's really what IoT is about, right? So Ansible helps to manage the thing and manage the software that's on it, manage the life cycle and the patching. These are concepts that we've never had in the IoT industry. So it's a really rare opportunity for us to kind of bring this type of IT technology and best practices into a whole new ecosystem of customers and partners, and we're really excited about it. And we're excited to share it with the telecommunications industry and see how we can help them really expand their edge business.
Right. I think the telco industry needs that kind of enterprise IT attitudes bringing in, because we're so insular as an industry, and I think that lots of those problems have already been solved elsewhere, and so that's great.
Exactly what we're here to do.
Great. So let's talk about ecosystem a little. You know, the hyperscalers, and there's this dialogue around the competitive nature of the edge for hyperscalers and operators, but it's also a partnership ecosystem, and we're seeing some of those partnerships kind of really paying off now with OEM and the device manufacturers and the network equipment manufacturers. So how are you seeing that kind of landscape playing out?
Yeah, well, I mean, what I would say is like ecosystem and partnership is in the DNA at Red Hat. So whether you look at the birth of Linux, which actually drove to where we are now with cloud compute, we have been at the heart of that from the very beginning. So when Kubernetes even started, which is the basis of what cloud compute is even about, we were there in the open source, working with folks from Amazon and Google, and really starting that community to get to where we are now. So because of that, we've naturally had really fantastic partnerships from original in the data center with all of the OEMs. Any one of them has a go-to-market with us, all the way into the hyperscalers with fantastic offerings, both of as a service. So we have our own software as a service models with the cloud providers, as well as ability to kind of take our technology from the marketplace. When we see what's happening in the telecommunications industry, I think there are some that are partnering with them and kind of going with their traditional business model and leveraging them to basically just sell more infrastructure and storage. I think that may be a little bit of a challenging business model. There are others that are looking to partner with them and actually create platform as a service, software as a service models out into the enterprise. And I think those operators are probably going to see a little bit more success and revenue generation from it. And there's, the one thing I would just say is while we work with every one of the hyperscalers, I think that the telecommunications industry probably needs to pay a little bit more attention to what hyperscalers are working with their enterprise customers when they're making their partnership decisions, because you need to follow where your customer is going in order to be able to play in the ecosystem and the revenue stream.
Piece of information that's cropped up in every conversation I've had is around AI and the use of AI. It seems like it's here. It's the inflection point has been reached, and it's actually doing very useful things for telcos and their partners.
AI is definitely one of those killer use cases for the enterprise, computer vision in particular. And beyond kind of the ecosystem that's there, I think the one thing that is really interesting that we've started to work on is it's a very dispersed ecosystem. So when you look at any one customer, they may have more than 5 different types of computer vision partners. So we have really worked hard to optimize our platform with NVIDIA in order to be able to have a little bit more of a multi-tenancy on some of the GPUs, which allows for there to be a greater ROI off of the compute that they may be buying to run this type of technology. So I think that there's a lot that we can do, and I'm really excited to see what the industry decides to kind of take as their next step.
Me too. Me too. Well, thanks for your time today, Kelly. I hope you have a good rest of the show. Thanks for everything.
Same to you.